Charles Clarke has launched his biggest attack yet on Gordon Brown's leadership. The former Home Secretary is delivering a speech in London now in which he predicts Labour will suffer a catastrophe at the next election unless Mr Brown stands down.
Mr Clarke, the MP for Norwich South, has criticised the Prime Minister on previous occasions, but tonight's speech goes beyond anything he's said before. It's being seen as a determined attempt to force a leadership contest before the general election. Let's get the very latest on this now from our political correspondent, Andrew Sinclair.
Susie, as you said, there's been no love lost between Gordon Brown and Charles Clarke for some time, but this is his most dramatic intervention yet, and it's a well-timed intervention coming just 4 days before a very important Labour Party conference. But look at this. In tonight's London Evening Standard, he calls on the Prime Minister to go with dignity, and he says perhaps he might want to cite health reasons as a reason for standing down. And now, as you said, he's just started giving a lecture here in London to the Progress think tank, talking about how Labour could win the next election. And he says he thinks Labour's got a track record which it has to be proud of, and he thinks the Conservatives haven't yet completely won over the nation of Britain and they could still lose the next election. But he says there is a problem with Labour's leadership.
But I'm sorry to say that many in Labour are also failing to face up to the grave situation which we face. Our leadership is weak, uncertain, tactically unsure and lacks vision. We are unpopular, with current poll standings at an average of 41 Conservative, 26 Labour and 18 Liberal Democrat. Labour voting intentions consistently underperform the party's core support, with a big pool of lost Labour voters now backing other parties, and Labour supporters apparently more likely than Tory ones to be thinking of switching sides. These ratings have declined consistently since 2008, despite an apparently unending sequence of new relaunches, a string of policy initiatives and significant political changes, such as the arrival of Peter Mandelson into Gordon Brown's government.
Andrew, has there been any reaction to Mr Clarke's comments yet?
Well, Susie, it's interesting. Within minutes of hearing that we were covering this story tonight, officials from the Labour Party were on to me, telling me that they were trying to play down Mr Clarke's intervention, that this wasn't a big deal. Charles is Charles, said one official. There's nothing new in what he's saying, and the official predicted that no other MP in our region will come out and join him in calling for the Prime Minister to stand down. The Deputy Prime Minister, John Prescott, has said that, or the former Deputy Prime Minister, John Prescott, rather, has said tonight that Mr Clarke should put up or shut up, and if he's really calling for a leadership challenge, why didn't he stand himself? And in Mr Clarke's Norwich South constituency this evening, there's been quite a bit of unease at what he's been saying.
Gordon Brown's got a difficult job to do. He's come in at a difficult time. I think the MP should be supporting him unless he's got a very good reason for not doing so.
It's about the 450th time he's asked him, I believe, so he's obviously not listening, but he's probably got a good idea there. I'd like to see him go, but I'm not alone in that, I'm sure.
Charles Clarke shouldn't be doing it. I don't think so anyway, because he's never been in a position to do the job that Brown's doing at the moment, whether Brown's doing a good job or a bad job. At the moment, it doesn't look good, but he's still doing his best, and he can only play the cards he's dealt with.
So, Andrew, what are the chances now of a leadership contest before the election?
Well, Susie, there's been lots of whispers, lots of talk, and it always was going to get big round about the party conference. The bottom line, though, is there is no serious challenger out there at the moment who's prepared to put their head above the parapet. There have been several attempts this year to perhaps try and force out a challenger, but it hasn't happened. And this, in a sense, is what's frustrating Mr Clarke. He says that there are 4 or 5 people within the cabinet who he thinks would make very good Labour leaders, who could even win the next election for Labour. What frustrates him is that they won't put their heads up. Will this speech change anything? We'll have to wait and see.
Thank you very much. And there'll be more from Andrew and our politics team this Friday on Look East, when we look ahead to Labour's conference in Brighton. And Sunday's edition of The Politics Show is live from Brighton at the earlier time of 11 o'clock here on BBC One.
Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge announced plans today to transform itself into Europe's most advanced centre for medical research. It's hoping to attract talent from around the world and to extend its patient care with a raft of new services, including a new children's hospital. Let's get the details now from our chief reporter, Kim Riley. Kim.
Yes, it's been talked about for about 10 years now, but tonight the Cambridge Biomedical Campus, as they're calling it, is definitely one step further, with new buildings like the one behind me due to sprout up on what is now open farmland. The master plan brings many new facilities. Papworth Hospital would move here. The Rosie Maternity Hospital would get a £28 million extension. There'd be a new children's hospital, as you said. There'd be a comprehensive cancer centre and a neurosciences centre, just some of the developments planned. This may already be a centre of excellence, but some of the existing buildings are literally bursting at the seams. One of the new arrivals in the neonatal intensive care unit at the Rosie. This is Samia, making progress after weighing in at less than 2 pounds. Next door to her, another premature baby, Dorota, building up strength and breathing unaided. More intensive care cots are urgently needed. This is the existing 70-acre Addenbrooke site. And this is the master plan for the future, a campus double the size.
So below us here is the Rosie Hospital, and the first thing we intend to do is expand in front of the Rosie Hospital to provide services for the local people.
It's claimed the development will result in one of the most internationally competitive concentrations of health talent and enterprise in Europe. But is it really going to happen?
Already the infrastructure is being completed, the guided bus system, the Addenbrooke's access road, the MRC development as we speak is being built. Papworth Hospital hopefully will be approved in the next few weeks by the Treasury and by the Department of Health, and again that will be another major development on this campus, so I have no doubt that it will be realised.
Biomedical research underpins the new vision. The Medical Research Council's epidemiology unit stores 54,000 DNA samples in this lab, part of an investigation into the genetic makeup and lifestyle of patients who develop diabetes. Ken Jones from Sybil Headingham was diagnosed with diabetes 5 years ago. He's part of a long-term trial involving detailed monitoring of activity levels, heart rate, oxygen intake and general fitness.
I think these developments are very exciting, both locally for us, locally for study participants here, locally for patients receiving healthcare in this area, but also more broadly to the NHS in this country and even to healthcare internationally.
The authorities here insist this is not about empire building, but making a confusing site more user-friendly and, most importantly, bringing together the expertise to make life better for patients. Well, the price tag for all this, hundreds of millions of pounds, the price tag, the time scale, perhaps 20 years before the site is actually complete. But the new Rosie extension and the move of Papworth, the transplant pioneers here, that's definitely, it seems, on the way. In terms of jobs, 9,000 people work on the site right now. When all this is complete, they say the numbers could rise to 17,000. Amelia.
Thanks, Kim.
There's lots more to come on Look East.